Christopher Fitzpatrick. Y'all give him another round. And Cody Canada was nice enough to join us. It was just kind of, I guess I was maybe living right that day because we got a contract from these guys and I had a movie time that I needed to fill, and a friend of mine that is friends with Christopher said, I've got this great movie called Oklahoma Breakdown. Oh, by the way, Cody Canada's in it. So the timing worked out really good. I want to start off with you, Christopher. How did you decide to do this documentary? Of all the different things you could have made a movie about, how did you choose Mike Hosty?
Well, he's somebody I'd followed in college, and to me, still like one of the greatest live musicians I've ever seen. But I kind of wanted to find out why he was a huge star, and was I the only person who thought the way about his musical abilities and his comedic stylings? Did anybody else feel this way? And so that's when I kind of became a freelancer, and then I decided, that's the first thing I had on my mind for years, really, like a big project, and I knew how to, I had a camera, and I had one, lens and tripod. I just became a freelancer, like I said. That's why I started investing in gear and a computer, and just asked him, hey man, I see that you're now by yourself, you're not with a drummer, and he's like, would you want to do a documentary? Because I do one on you. And he's like, yeah, sure, like just real nonchalant, like everything. He's just really agreeable.
He didn't look like the kind of guy that would just say no.
No, very little. Yeah, he didn't have much input on this project at all. He just kind of let me do whatever. He trusted me. But that takes time to build up.
Yeah.
That took years to get some of that other stuff. But yeah, that's the reason why I started it, going down this path.
Okay. So Cody, how did you discover Hosty? Tell us about maybe like the first time or two that you saw him.
My wife and I used to work at I think it's working now. She was the bartender talent scout for the Wormy Dog Saloon in Stillwater. No, that's up too. Let's try smoke signals. I had heard him, just because I was in the scene, and I had told my wife, I think we really need to get this guy up here. And then once I actually laid eyes on the guy, I thought, well, this is the dude I saw open up for Ian Moore in Oklahoma City with a band called Heater. So I felt like I didn't know him before Heater, but that was in the very, very infant stage of my first band. So. And that was what the kind of guitar playing that he was doing was what I was doing. So I was hooked on every note. And then, throw in a massive talent with that kind of humor, you can't really go any wrong. I'm really glad you got Shiny Ribs, Kevin Russell, on that, because I feel like they're, to be funny about it, they're kind of on the same hospital floor. And throw a Mike McClure in there, they're all the same kind of quirky talent.
Quirky is a nice, really sweet way to put it.
They're weirdos, man.
They're good weirdos, really good weirdos. Christopher, how did you decide, how did you find who you wanted to talk to about Hosty?
It's a great question. Obviously, Stoney's an easy tie-in,
right?
But after I got done with the interview at his house, which was the bulk of the interview, I interviewed him like 8 times, but the first time I drove up to his house in late 2016, after the interview was done, I was like, all right, I gotta ask you, I'm like, is there anybody else you can, that are, in the music industry that people may have heard of that think about your talents, on a kind of the level that I do, And he's just like, oh no. And then, maybe a couple minutes later, he's like, that guy, Cody Canada? And at the time I didn't know who you were. He goes, the band Crossroads, Ragweed? And I go, well, I've definitely heard of that band name. I didn't follow, like Texas Country and Red Dirt. I was we've talked about this since, like I was into the 90s, like, the rock, STP, that kind of stuff, I was into mostly rock and roll and Radiohead. And so when he said Crossroads, Ragweed, I was like, a lot of people know who that band is. And I remember living in Abilene for 10 months and that name came up several times. And so he suggested Cody, and so I knew about Stoney. I thought Stoney'd be able to do it as long as he agreed to do it. But Cody that was like kind of changed my mindset a little bit. So I remember driving to New Braunfels after we agreed to do it, which was like instantly, which made me happy. I was like, okay, I think I'm reading this right. And I remember trying to like get myself familiar with some of your music. And this is kind of funny. So there's this. I work in TV, and I'm we get like an hour between Rangers games. Before a Rangers game, the crew gets to take a break, and we get in a guitar circle. We'd all bring our guitars, and they have a song like real thick. And one day, Boys from Oklahoma came up, and I hadn't heard that song. And I remember like reading the lyrics, and I was just like, "Who is this guy? Who wrote this song? Like, who's singing this? Who made this song popular? Like, this guy must just hate Oklahoma." So when you told me we were having a conversation at your house, I asked you some of the songs that were big hits for you, and you mentioned that one. I go, "Wait a minute!" I go, "I know that song. I remember where I first heard of that song." And it turns out you're from Oklahoma, and that was a huge hit for you. So, but yeah, when he mentioned Cody and I came up and did an interview with you. And things that you said during that interview, which I used a ton of because the things you said were so perfect, just really kind of encapsulating that time in your life, being 16-year-old, it kind of made me think about how I first saw Hosty. So that got the ball rolling, and then Jason Boland and just a few other people at the, I think it was the Red Dirt Relief Fund, we talked, and you need to get Stoney tomorrow night in Stephenville playing that song. And so I said, okay, I'm off, I'm gonna drive down and shoot that, and it turned out being one of my favorite parts of the show, of the movie, was being behind all those people by myself with a sea of 25,000 people singing. That was the moment that I knew that this was something different.
I didn't realize there was that many people in Stephenville.
I didn't either.
Starting next week, there will be.
Next week, yeah, I'm playing on Cool Wetzel Day, and they're estimating 60,000 people.
Wow.
In a field.
They're talking about the Mary Jo Taylor Festival in Stephenville.
Or as we've been calling it, Redneck Woodstock.
Yeah. It's this is totally off topic, but he has two festivals. So he has one, it's like, and my parents go to it, so it's like the Tame one in Red River that he has like in August, and then he has Stephenville. So I don't think you could do that twice in 1 year and survive.
The older I get, the more I say yes to the Tame Festival there, Joe.
Like here.
I would really, yeah. I mean, once upon a time, playing in front of that many drunk, rowdy people was fun.
It might have been fun.
But now I look out at the crowd and I see my kids and I'm like, don't do that. What are you doing?
So
put that beer down. You're at 18.
Yeah.
Brother Miles.
That kind of like tees up my next question. So one of my favorite things about this movie is it just kind of shows his vulnerability and how important his family is to him, his wife and his son. And Cody, I know your family is really important to you, and as we're getting older and growing up and all that stuff, how do you prioritize that and keep your work-life balance and your family, priority one?
I just don't really have
it's just what you do.
That's just the only train of thought I have. I mean, my dad worked really hard. I never saw him.
Yeah.
And now I see him a lot. I know. But I don't know. Both parents need to be. If you're responsible enough to have a kid, you need to be responsible enough to be a dad.
Yeah.
And my dad did great. My mom wasn't so great at it. But you just need to be present. I mean, there's a lot to say about even the world that we live in now. There's a lot of people that are in trouble and doing things they shouldn't be doing, and you can trace it back to what were their parents doing to keep them out of trouble.
Yep.
I mean, some kid goes to school with anger issues and a gun, and then you trace it back to, well, his dad used to beat him, or I don't know. You have to be,
or maybe wasn't present.
It wasn't there at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to be. I think you have to be there. I love my kids more than anything.
Yeah.
And I'm a real softy too, and you're gonna make me cry.
Y'all, I have to tell y'all this. I literally had this question in my notes to ask Cody, and I looked down at his shoulder bracelet. It says Daddy.
Oh, yeah. I got my kids' names on it.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's special.
They're the number one thing.
As it should be. Yeah.
I didn't know all that about Mike's dad. You know?
Yeah.
Of course, that's not something that would come up in conversation late night after a deli show. You know, it's
Right,
like, so your
yeah.
dad used to be this. You know.
But you know, it can go either way. It could either, make him bitter, but it really made him totally the opposite.
Yeah, my favorite part was when he said, somebody's got to break that chain.
Yeah.
You know, and I've heard that all my entire life. You know, I've had friends in the music business that have said that, well, my parents did this, so I need to break the chain, and then they end up being just like their parents. You know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's nice to see that side of Mike.
Yeah, it was special.
Let's say that took like 3.5 years before I got that stuff out of him about his family. I mean, the guy that's that funny, tells so many jokes. He's very personal. When he's on stage, he'll, talk about funny stuff about his family life, funny songs that his kids been playing, or, conversation comes up with his wife. But that stuff about his father was, it was like the 7th interview that I did with him, where I asked him about, I think I just said, what was your childhood like? And I wanted to start and ask him why things were the way they were. I thought he was going to start telling me that his inspiration was his father. Because it's on that album sleeve where it says, on the back it says, dedicated to T.A. Hosty. I was like, I did not expect it to go the way it went. So the whole script kind of flipped on me right there. But his brother came up to me in front of the crowd out during the Q&A in Oklahoma City, the Dead Center. First time he'd screamed, first time he'd seen it, and he was visibly shaken, and he came up to me and he was like, thank you. He's like, we don't talk about this stuff, this is not something. He's like, it's come up in conversation, I think, like once or twice between them, ever since they were, grown-ups. So it was therapeutic for Mike. That much I can tell you, because he just talked about it much.
Right.
You probably helped him out.
He did say that, but yeah, after he got done, he got it. He said, man, I feel like I just got interrogated. So that's when I quit. I put the camera away anytime we interviewed after that, and I just interviewed him audio only, and just said, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
That way you're not, having to feel pressure of the lights and that stuff.
Yeah. So I do have one more question, but we want to take questions from the audience too, if you guys have any. Does anybody have any questions? No?
Somebody want to snap a photo while I'm up here with Cody Canada?
Laurie's been taking pictures.
When I was watching the documentary, I saw it said Chautauqua Avenue.
Shakota.
Oh, was that Shakota? Oh, okay, sorry, I guess.
Or, was it Shakota?
I'm trying to think which part of this.
Oh, no, it said there was like flashing up like all the different places he was playing.
Probably Shakota.
Was it Shakota?
Yeah, he was in that one rant about, on the Frady Hole in Shakota's a town, county, and he was saying that 14 other counties named after Native Americans. He's not kidding.
Well, now you're making me think. I'm trying to think.
There is a Chautauqua Avenue in Norman.
Yeah, that's in Norman. So I'm trying to think. Maybe it was a recording studio. I'm trying to think what that would have been.
That's pretty cool that we're in the Chautauqua Avenue.
I know.
This is my coworker Laurie, and she can Google anything in I don't even know how fast. I mean, if the police department needs help, they call. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
They don't.
I actually wanted to ask Cody a question. So next week, this film is screening for the first time in California on the Central Coast, and a guy I guarantee you're familiar with, Pepper Daniels. He reached out to me. This is like 3 months ago, and he said, Colt looked up on my OklahomaBreakdown.com website, just contacted me, and I wasn't sure if it was fake, and he was like, hey, we're big sponsors of the St. Louis Obispo Film Festival, which I didn't know really existed, but it's been around for 30 years. He's like, you may not know this or not, but Oklahoma Breakdown's a huge hit out here, and all those guys in your film play out here. And I'm like, I had no idea. Like, just another layer of things that just kind of kept coming up from this. So it's going to screen next week, and they're promoting the heck out of it. It's incredible. Like, it's a huge deal, and it's, they're having Hosty and I on the radio next week. I've already been on twice, and Hosty's gonna play after the second screening, and he's played out, I think, in California once for some private event. So I just wanted to get you elaborate on how that came about with you and Stoney and those guys to get invited to come play out there. Was he the reason?
Pepper was the reason. Yeah, so there's a guy in New Braunfels named Matson Rayner. And he owns KMDT Radio, and it's Americana station, and it's the #1 Americana station in the world. It has been for a long time. And he brags about that a lot, and I like to knock him down a peg and say it's not real hard to be the #1 Americana station in the world. Americana is, in the words of Todd Snyder, a less popular country music. But no, very proud of my friend. But everybody wants to be Madsen, you know, and Pepper was just such a fan of Madsen. You know, he worked at this station that was made nothing but country music, top 40 country, and they gave him his own hour. And he would just play us and Randy Rogers and Stoney and Hosty. Hosty's version, and then Stoney's version. And Bolin. And then he started booking us at the brewery out there. San Luis Obispo, if anybody's ever been, they call it the most peaceful place on earth. And it really is. I mean, it's just, it's California, you know. Put aside everything what people think about Texas versus California. I mean, it is a little bitty paradise, you know, and just clam chowder on the beach kind of place, you know. And it's nice to know that we all have a home out there due to him, due to Pepper, you know. And Pepper's the kind of guy that, you know, he goes all over the world promoting country acts. And then if he's, like back in the day, he would be in New York City doing something for Jason Aldean, then he would say, well, once you listen to this band, you don't even play us for that New York radio station and get us played, you know. I mean, we might not get 20 spins a week in New York City, but we got 20 spins in New York City, you know.
He cares.
Yeah, and he still does to this day. You know, he sent me a picture of Mike McClure and Billy Gibbons at the Texas Music Awards just a few weeks ago, and you know, and he doesn't have to be here. He's from California, but he wants to come out here because his passion is our kind of music.
But I think that speaks a lot to the impact of red dirt music everywhere, really. I mean, you know, when things were kind of getting started in the mid to late 90s and really heating up, it was Texas and Oklahoma, and that was it. And now you've got things like, you know, Mile Zero and Steamboat, and you know, it's nationwide and beyond.
It is. I actually, this is really funny. There's that country. I don't even know. To be honest with you, I don't even know why they call it country music anymore. That's not me being bitter. It's just me actually having a question of, is this what happened to it? You know, now I realize now why Haggard was so mad in the end. You know, it's like because it's not country music. But who am I to judge? You know, I mean, I always complained about it when I was in my 20s, and then one day I was like, you know, I don't have to listen to it. Just turn it off. But there's a guy named Kane Brown, I guess.
He's a rapper.
Yeah, but he's a country guy. See? And but he had said in an interview a couple of weeks ago that he dropped my name. And he said people that listen to him don't listen to me. And the whole red dirt scene really looks down upon what I do. And I thought, yeah, they really do. They really do look. I mean, because we're snooty fans, because we want substance.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of music is not substance. You know,
No.
that's not just my opinion. That's a large group of people that feel like red dirt and Texas music is, and once upon a time it was just red dirt music, and then once upon a time it was just Texas music. Now, I feel like it was the old Willie Nelson bringing the hippies and the cowboys together, you know, in the mid '90s. I remember playing Lubbock, Texas, the 7th time, and I told the crowd, I'm not coming back because you guys really are pissed off at me because I'm from Oklahoma. Like, what's the problem? This is what you're looking at me and all you see is football. But there is nothing sports related about this man. And if you just quit thinking about that, you know, it's just a river. Let's enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
And the next time we came back, we had a packed house, people bringing shots to, you know, and I think people finally got over it. But it has taken on a life of its own. You know, there's a company out of North Carolina called Red Dirt NC. There's, you know, there's Red Dirt Illinois.
Yeah.
You know, it's like little chapters. And I'm very proud to say that, you know, because I heard the term red dirt when I moved to Stillwater. I didn't know that there was this network of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a Chris Sadu concert. I saw The Great Divide up there playing a Bob Wills song, but the lead guitar player, Mike McClure, was playing Eddie Van Halen riffs over a Bob Wills song. And I thought, I don't know if this is sacrilegious or I don't know if I love it. And then I ended up, you know, thinking, this is odd. This is bringing two different things together. And
It's the substance you're talking
it
about.
is.
Yeah.
And then I remember asking Bob Childers, like, what do y'all call this? I mean, it looks like folk.
Yeah.
Because it is, but it's red dirt music. It's like, I never heard that. And he told me, I remember telling the DJ in Dallas in like 99, when he asked me the same thing. I said, Bob Childers told me it was called red dirt. And he said, well, what's that even mean? He told me that the music is as pure as the dirt is red. And I always thought that was such a beautiful explanation.
Yeah.
And you got people like Stoney, who always thought Stoney was like Joe Cocker. He could write his own songs, but if he's going to take something like Oklahoma Breakdown, which is already a good song, and then turn it into something completely different, like Hendrix taking All Along the Watchtower and making it his, that's what
Right.
Stoney can do. And then Bolin was the more of the Waylon type, and I always thought the Flaming Lips, if you're from Oklahoma, I consider it red dirt, because there's just several different avenues of it, but going back full circle, it really all kind of led to Mike Hosty. I mean, it was Hosty and Tom Skinner and Bob Childers. That was the core. That was the three people that everybody, all roads led back to those people.
You meant the Oklahoma, Texas thing. It's really deep to me because I'm from Oklahoma, went to school at OU, and I moved to DFW when I was 10, so it was just constant harassment. And that's fine. Like I've gotten used to it over the years, but then going down the film festival circuit and submitting a film called Oklahoma Breakdown by Oklahoma artists, before some people even watch it, you get, I could sense, like, this still has a screen in Austin. It took a while for it to even screen in Texas. It screened in Lone Star, and it won the audience award. This is only the second time this film screened in Texas, so I just want to thank you, really, for
I have to tell, my
for
boss
having me here.
came and sat beside me for about 5 minutes, and he said, what Texas ties does this movie have? Because our whole deal that we hang our hat on is Texas-made films and Texas music.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I said, filmmaker, he lives in Dallas, so.
and eventually we get to it, right? Like it's,
we
it's,
get to it, yeah.
you gotta stick it out for a while, but there's so many Texas ties in this thing.
There are.
And literally every person who worked on this film, not just me, but the composer, John Hunter, did an amazing job. The animator, both animators, all from Dallas, and and I just found out yesterday it's going to screen at the Hill Country Film Festival, so we talked about that,
Yes.
and it got in. And so
That's awesome.
I thought that was that's going to be cool. And I was like, man, that'd be perfect for Cody to come to, but now you're here, so you want to come twice.
Yeah. It's in June
June
in
1st through
Fredericksburg.
4th
Yeah.
in Fredericksburg.
That's like 15 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
Bring your friends.
See where you're going.
Yeah, I know. You gotta wait like the day before, but anyway, so thank you again for
Yeah,
having
before
me.
we
This is
wrap
so
up,
cool.
does anybody have anything? You got one question back here.
When I heard Cody talking about classifying music, it put me in mind of a Terry Allen quote. When someone asked Terry Allen if he performed country music, he replied, "Which country?"
Yeah, that's very Terry Allen of him.
That's Terry and Bucka played here, 3 years ago? Yeah,
were
we had
here.
them here. Y'all were here?
Yeah, that was just before he released Moby Dick
Yes,
album.
yes,
That
it
was-
was.
Never forget that concert.
Yeah, it
One
was
of the-
pretty special.
One of the first, I was talking earlier about seeing Mike Hosty open for a guy named Ian Moore, and Ian Moore's first band was like untouchable. Like, it was one of the best. They get together every now and then, but Bucka was on keys, and he was like 19 years old, and we still talk about those days. I told him, I said, your dad reached a whole bunch of people, but I think that you're an unsung hero, because like everybody that I know was touched by that Ian Moore record. Everybody that was in my scene, Bolin and Stoney, and everybody listened. We knew when we played those Ian Moore songs every night at the Warming Oak Saloon for 7 years, and I know that the Allen boys are
That
special.
whole family is just special people. Like
Yes,
I've
they
never.
are.
I mean, I just, I love Joe Harvey more than anything, and that's his wife. And if y'all don't know who Terry Allen is, you need to find out, because he's just unbelievable. I discovered, I don't want to get too far off my tangent, I discovered Terry Allen because of my grandmother. A lot of people don't know that he's an artist, an actual artist. And she called me one day when I was about 19. She didn't drive in Dallas, but she was an artist, and she said, "There's this exhibit I want to go see at the Dallas Museum of Art. He's from Lubbock. I want to go see." And he had CDs, and I bought one, and I was hooked
Yeah.
ever since then. So my, like 85-year-old grandmother at the time introduced me to Terry Allen. Yeah.
Talking about that categorizing stuff, like if you listen to Jason Boland, it is very country, and it's under a country music section in it. Well, I guess back when you could buy CDs, and then Stony LaRue is classified as country, and then Ragweed was country. It's like, but this is not. I think it was. There was so many times, still really not much as in the beginning, but people would say, I don't really like country music, but I was like, well, that's good because they're not really a country band. Well, what are you, Red Dirt? And then, well, that's nothing but country. It's like, no, it's not really. It's not really. And I think, I saw Boland on there talking about, you don't want to say you're a country band because it can drive people away. It really can. And sometimes the people that we are, when they see country music, they think that we're a shoot the lights out, beer drinking, truck driving, red meat eating, and really we're just a bunch of hippies. That's really what the Red Dirt scene is.
And that's okay too.
It is. Yeah. I remember when Hosty came out to the farm one time. It was like the farm in Stillwater was this the music farm, and basically everybody that played music there lived there somewhere, whether they were sleeping on a couch or sleeping in their car or sleeping out on the dirt. It was just a bunch of hippies. We would call the local pizza joint and say we need 3 dead pizzas, meaning Grateful Dead pizzas, so they would burn them so they couldn't sell them, and then we'd go pick them up for free. That was the scene that we lived in. I remember when Hosty came out, and it really was like a super, like Elton John was came to town and graced us with his presence and did a 2-hour show, just in a field. I'm very, very proud. I'm very happy for you that this came out really well. Really
And
well.
I'm so glad that you put this together and told this story, because people need to know that there's all these inspirations behind, not that you wouldn't have done it yourself, but like Cody and Stony and all these other people that we've been enjoying for 25 years. There's people, there's the wind beneath your wings, I guess. That's kind of a cheesy way to say it, but
Giving back,
Yeah.
that meant so much, and I know Mike really, really appreciates it too, because he doesn't seek out that kind of stuff. I think he did, but I know it means a lot to him. When he's getting to fly out to Central Coast, California, he doesn't drop much. He doesn't like cancel gigs very often at all. But for something like that, when somebody shows their appreciation for his art, that's when they say, hey, we'll actually pay you a little bit. Oh, that's really nice of you. But he doesn't care about the fame. It's just never been part of his DNA. And that's, and that could be a fallback too. Like, he's not making a ton of money because he doesn't really market himself, but he's checking the 2 boxes that are most important to him, which are being a father and doing what he wants to do for the rest of his life.
I think that's why he's so good, because he's so authentic.
And he's rich.
Yeah.
He might not be rich in the bank, but he's rich.
He's rich, and and I'll wrap up saying this. I think that's why there aren't any other states, I don't think, that are able to do a full-fledged festival that exclusively celebrates things like Texas-made music and movies. I don't know that there's a Rhode Island-made film festival. You know what I mean? So I just think, I know. If y'all know Barry Tubb, if you're a Texan, you probably know who Barry Tubb is, but he used to come to our festival a lot, and he said, we have more happen before lunchtime than everybody else has happen all month. The stories in Texas are just so much richer, and I don't mean to exclude Oklahoma, because it's certainly, it's this whole area, this whole region. It's just better,
Can I ask one question?
You can.
So on the documentary where Stoney said, if I don't play Oklahoma Breakdown, they're gonna shake my bus. So is there a song that's like that for you, Cody?
Yeah, I have his Boys from Oklahoma. That's a fun song.
Yeah.
But there's nights it's not. I did a long tour with Robert O'Keefe, and he didn't play Road Goes On Forever one night. It's like, you didn't play it. He kind of looked at me all put out and goes, and? I was like, well, I just gotta, I can live with it or live without it, Robert, but
gonna sneak this in there, like, what about Carney Man? Do people wanna?
I usually try to stay away from Carney Man because it's such a stupid song.
Everybody loves it.
I know, and it's nothing against everybody else. I love making everybody happy, but sometimes I mean, there's nights we'll do
I'm
it.
hoping you're feeling it tonight.
Well, now I have to. I look like an asshole.
Oh,
We're gonna open with it. Close it.
He's gonna get back on the bus and go, the lady from the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Pack it up, Brian, around here. No, I'm kidding. No, I don't really put it on the list, but there's nights that, yeah, like talking about Robert. He said, "Man, it's your show. You can do whatever you want." And I never thought of it that way. I always thought we were kind of at the mercy of the crowd. And I have to say this before you wrap everything up. When he was talking about the country music awards people, and he's like, they just showed all those people dressed up and clapping and smiling. He's like, they look like they're in hell.
Yeah.
Because they are.
Yeah.
I've been at those ACM awards,
Yeah.
and people are all dolled up for a bowling trophy, and then it's like, are you really happy? And I've been in the late night bars with some of those people, and you can see who the ones that they're doing this for fame and fortune, and then that's not, you can't take fame and fortune with you, I don't know. I think we need a whole bunch of Mike Hostys in this world.
Man.
Amen. I think that's a good way to wrap it up. Thank y'all again for everything.
Thank you.